So welcome to this spotlight on hybrid leadership and avoiding burnout. I'm pleased to be joined today by Chris Elliot, who is the controller, or effectively chief executive, of the RAF Benevolent Fund. Hello there, Chris.
Hi, Liz.
Did I get your title correct? Or are
Yes,
we?
no,
Yes.
that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Spot on.
Wonderful, my pleasure. Now, can you give us a quick 20-second flavour of who you are for those who may not know?
Liz, well, first of all, thank you. It's an absolute delight to be part of this programme with Windsor Leadership Trust. And I would just like to say for those who may not know about Windsor Leadership, how much of an advocate I am for what you do. So thank you. I just want to say that first. But so who am I? So I joined the Royal Air Force way back in, I think, with the dark days in 1985. And I stayed for 35 years in the Royal Air Force and then left to take on this fantastic role of leading this charity, which has been around for 104 years. I'm a proud mum of 2 children and was able to navigate my way through sort of different roles and positions in the Air Force, still being a mum. I'm a wife to a fantastic ex-army officer who supported me through my journey and career. And I've just had the most amazing sort of career opportunities in both the Air Force and the charity. And I look forward to sort of exploring maybe how some of those have affected me in my time, positively and negatively.
That's fantastic. Superb. Thank you very much. So we'll go straight into the first question then. What do you see as the top 3 challenges of hybrid leadership?
It's a really great question, and it made me sort of pause to think about all sorts of things when I read that question. And I think for me, it's understanding that we've always done hybrid leadership. It depends on the roles, it depends on the organisation, and it really depends on the sector. So we've always had challenges when teams work in a dispersed nature. If you've got a team that's challenged by working in different parts of the country or the world, we've always had hybrid leadership. It's not just something that's come in post-COVID. I think the challenge is to understand how it works in your organisation and what your part is in bringing that organisation together. If you're trying to encourage people to work well, to work remotely where it's appropriate to do so. But one of the key challenges for me is to make it work. You've got to be, especially as a leader, be better at planning. Because actually those sort of things that you maybe encountered, being able to sort of grab people together in a spontaneous way to do more creativity sections, are not always the same when you're working remotely. So planning is one of those challenges. And for myself, one of the other things in terms of the challenges is about being able to balance what flexibility means for the individual and for the organisation. And I think understanding that you'll never be able to have things in balance all the time, and being able to balance people's need or desire to work flexibility is not always, you're not always able to do it. And I think being honest with yourself that sometimes you have to do the thing what's right for the organisation, but may not always be right for the individual. And how do you make sure a team works well together when everybody potentially wants a different way of interacting and how they work? So I think that's a real challenge. It just means you've got to stand back and think about how a team works, how individual teams then come together. So it is definitely a challenge, because not having people always in a fixed workplace is a good thing, because actually people can work better outside the office as well. But it is about how we make sure that we're fair, but also we give the teams the right space to be able to do their work. But I think the big challenge for me also is how you bring people into an organisation when you hybrid work. How do you ensure that their experience of learning about us as an organisation, or any organisation, how do they understand the values? How do they understand our behaviours? You've got to think about induction and onboarding people, I think, in a very different way. Sometimes it can take more time. Sometimes, again, going back to that word planning, you've got to plan it in a way, because you can't necessarily learn by osmosis the same way that maybe in my early years, that you could look across a desk and see how people behaved, what was acceptable, what wasn't. And as part of that process as well, how do you get people to connect with an organisation when potentially they're not around people the same way? So I think very different challenges, but I think there are huge opportunities there. But I think as leaders, we've got to think of our team dynamics in different ways.
Thank you. And that's really interesting, because we've been thinking about the sort of nuances of behaviours and things that you pick up that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily recognise that you're picking up from other colleagues being physically around you, that now, of course, as you say, you know, when you're starting a new job, particularly if it's perhaps only your first or your second job, it's quite difficult to pick up those little things, and the water cooler moments that we always chat about, you know, the chances just to sort of understand a little bit more perhaps of the culture of the organisation.
Absolutely. And I do think we've got to not superimpose our own experiences onto those of others as well. So some people may not be in a position that they can work remotely, that they want a place of security to work from as well. So I think that's really important to understand, that not everybody wants to work hybridly. Just because it works for some, it may not work for others as well. But also being able to, as leaders and managers, sense when there's something maybe not working quite as well. It's more difficult to do that if you've got a higher proportion of time working hybrid rather than actually being together as a team. Again, you can put things in place, but you've just got to be aware. You've got to be more, I think, your senses have just got to be more alive to people's body language when you actually are on Teams or in Zoom or any other platform. So I do think it's about being so much more aware that you've got to be alive to picking these things up in a very different way.
So Chris, we'll move on to the second question now. Why is the issue of burnout in leadership something that is so significant for you?
So I will answer this as a female leader, because I think that's the way that I see myself as a leader who happens to be female. But for me, burnout can happen because you're just not aware that you're spreading yourself so thinly sometimes. And I do think that to be the best we can be is creating time for ourselves to build back resilience is so important. And we lose this, I think, as sometimes as females, if we've got other responsibilities outside the workplace. And this can be caring responsibilities, it can be childcare responsibilities, it could be wider family responsibilities. But sometimes as female leaders, we can catch ourselves too late, that we've spread ourselves too thinly, and that's not good for us, but it's not good for the teams that we lead and support as well. So I'm very conscious that we've got to help each other, especially as in our workplaces today, that to have some really good support networks out there that can maybe just remind you that you need to create time for yourselves. And I think to be the best leaders we possibly can be, to the best wives, husbands, or partners, or spouses we can be, making time for ourselves to build back resilience is really important. Whether that's cooking, walking the dog, doing your park run on a Sunday, going for a walk at lunchtime, joining a book club. I don't know, you just need to make sure that you build that space for your time, because that mental resilience you need is so important.
So can I be cheeky and ask what your thing is? What do you do? Have you got a list of different things, or is there a particular?
So I find just having downtime commuting is really interesting. I hated commuting, and now sometimes I actually quite enjoy it, because it forces you to not get on your laptop because you can't, because the trains are so busy. But I enjoy the walk. I enjoy being able to sort of set myself up for the day. And when I'm not working in the office, being able to just create that same sort of feeling is really good, whether it's walking the dog, whether it's doing some just things that don't need to test or engage you is really important. I like dog walking because I think that's really good, but also it's creating the time just to listen and have good times with people that you can trust and who can maybe hold a bit of a mirror up to you sometimes as well. So I think that's really important too.
So the third question then, how might someone who is struggling with burnout take the first steps to help themselves? There was a big sigh that I heard there. Yeah.
It's really hard to identify that in yourself sometimes. I think it's really difficult unless something happens to kind of jolt you to realize that you have been burned, because I don't think any one of my colleagues or friends that maybe have felt themselves be running on empty have caught themselves that normally someone else is saying, are you all right? And when someone asks you that question, maybe just not answer, yes, I'm fine, thank you. Maybe just take that moment to say, well, actually, am I all right? Because I think for a lot of people in leadership positions, it can be something that happens. That could be an emotional outburst. It could be losing your temper with someone. It could just be realizing you just don't have enough time in the day. But I think something happens before you actually realize you're in that burnout position. So I think that's why potentially I sighed. But once you get to that awareness that you need to do something to create time and space for yourself, it's taking ownership of your diary. The first thing is just creating time and not thinking or not feeling guilty that you've put in an hour for reflection on a Monday morning, or at the end of the day you say I'm going for a walk round the block, whether that's at home or in the workplace, but not feeling guilty about creating space in your diary is probably the very first thing that can really change that balance of feeling burned out, and feeling comfortable with saying no to things would be my second thing.
So a huge thank you, Chris, for sharing those thoughts, and we do look forward to hearing more from you in the months ahead.